I've put this in many like religious forums, and I've got kicked out. So I'll ask you this. Before that, I'll give you a quote that you said. The question was in one of your interviews, what are the biggest forces preventing the dissemination of better quality poetry? And what you wrote is unsurprisingly, it's the same forces that retard effective government, education, police enforcement, corporate behavior, etc. Basically, the immoral behavior like greed, ego, stupidity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question to you is this. Uh, See, don't you think that the most immoral people are the most successful in every sphere of life? And I'm not just talking about now, I'm talking about throughout human history. I'm talking about Ramses II or
Oh, sure.
Ashoka.
Sure. I mean, Attila the Hun, Genghis Khan were wildly successful. Something
Yeah,
like 20% of the people in Asia have the DNA of Genghis Khan
yeah,
because he fucked probably 5,000 to 6,000 women. I mean,
yeah,
he was
yes,
a kill and fuck kind of guy. He was life
yeah,
and death living. But having said that, I think Genghis Khan was a great man. I think Genghis Khan was the most important human being of the last 1,000 years because the Mongol Empire were not just a bunch of retarded people going around killing people. They actually were one of the first demotic societies. They
mm,
you could practice your own religion. They weren't like Attila. They weren't like Alexander the Great. Genghis
yeah,
Khan. If you remove Genghis Khan from history,
mm,
for 6,000 years the Mongols were just riding in outer Mongolia.
mm,
This is a guy who literally in just 15 to 20 years changed
mm,
a bunch of horse riders, conquered all the horse riding cultures around him, conquered
yeah,
China, conquered 80% of Asia, the biggest
yeah,
land empire ever. If you remove them, we probably
yeah,
have a world that's divided between China and Islam. Because if you
yeah,
remove, because the Mongols scared the fuck out of China, China withdrew into itself. The Mongols
mm,
scared the fuck out of the Muslims and basically retarded their development. It wasn't the
mm,
Christians that retarded Islam. It was the fucking Mongols until they were beaten somewhere in Palestine in
yeah,
1227 or 1300s or something. But
yeah,
and I forget why I brought what was your question? Oh,
yeah,
about
the
violence. Yeah,
morality. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's true. If you only care about yourself, I've often said this to myself. If all I cared about myself, I'm smart enough. I grew up. If you've ever seen the film Goodfellas, I grew up in that environment.
yeah,
I'm a lot
yeah,
smarter than those characters there. If I wanted to
yeah,
be an evil son of a bitch, I could have been. I could. There was a gangster known as Lucky Luciano, and his side man was Mario Lansky, a Jewish guy. I'm not Jewish, but I'm smart enough that I would not have been in the way. I would have been running things behind the scenes. I know I if I
mm,
wanted to manipulate people or whatnot, I could do that. I can see these kind of things. But to
mm,
what end? To what end? I mean, you can only have so much money. You can only fuck so many women. You can only take in so much in life. I'm just fundamentally not like that. Uh, in genetically, but I'm also smart enough to know that even if that was genetically in me, I would
mm,
see that that was a bad way to live because it ultimately doesn't put anything out there. This is why we have global warming. This is, we have the U.S. and the West in general have fucked up the environment for 200 years since the Industrial Revolution. Now your country and China are actually producing more pollution. But who the hell are we now in the West to say that, well, you want to advance to our level, but you can't do that. Well, if we don't want that, we here
mm,
who have gotten rich, and not me personally, but the 1% here
yeah,
in the US should say,
yeah,
listen, China, listen, India, we're going to share our wealth, we're going to share our technology. We occupy, Carl Sagan and Astronomer said, the pale blue dot. We are this
yeah.
insignificant
I
little
know, yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, it amazes me that I'm not saying sure. I There are people I don't like. If you
mm,
showed me most women, I would probably say that most women wouldn't sexually attract me. But it wouldn't be because they're black or they're Indian
mm,
or they're
mm,
Chinese. There are
mm,
gorgeous women that way. I'm not gay. That doesn't mean I can't recognize. You seem like a good-looking guy. If I was gay and you were gay, maybe and we lived next door, maybe I'd ask you out. But it's this is just these are these petty little differences that ultimately don't mean anything, because ultimately we're going to end up as little, if you're lucky, you're an artist,
mm,
some pieces of art. If you're not lucky, you're just going to be a computer entry. Lived 2015 to 2087. Bill
mm,
Jones, carpenter, lived in Seattle, Washington, moved to
mm.
Singapore, married Suk Lee or whatever, and had three
Mm,
kids. That's all we're going to
mm.
know about these people.
Yeah.
There's data in a census bureau.
Mm. So, okay, I'll explain what I was trying to say. Look, Dan. Now the thing is, when I started working, I had my first job, I had my second job, I had my third job. Now I'm an observer. I like to observe people. But what I understood is office jobs everywhere is just politics. And what I realized is the most immoral people, narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, they were the ones who would get promoted, all right, in work. Now I have observed this in every culture, in every place, right? That's one example. The second example I want to give you is, now think about it. Religion, all religions, they say you have to be moral, you have to be a good boy, you have to be a good person, you have to be humble, and all those things. But ultimately, they are serving the people. The people that they are serving, the higher people of the order, the richest men, or the people in political power, they are immoral. Why don't the people realize this? Don't you think that democracy is a sham? Like democracy is a sham, right?
Well,
Don't you think that?
I mean, you know, I'm not a big fan of democracy in the sense that, like, when you're dealing with existential issues like global warming, the
Hmm,
people have said the best system would be a benevolent dictator, but try finding a
yeah,
dictator who's benevolent. For
I just
example,
was yeah.
if someone gave me the power to enact everything, I would be
Hmm,
scared shitless, because no matter how much of a good person I think I am, there's going to be little things. I might, at the, in a fit of anger, I might whisk away someone, and just by flicking my hand, they're dead. They're wiped from history. That would weigh on me. I don't want to be an omnipotent being. Um, and so I think that probably, could you have an inner circle of elite people? Well, we saw how that doesn't work with MFA writing programs. You get a bunch of incestuous bad people. We've seen how that doesn't work in the arts. Because what happens is, the people who get the money to make art are not the best people. They're the people who are networking, the people who know how to work the system. Um,
yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. There may not be an answer. There probably is, but it's probably something that's going to have to sort itself out long after you and I are off this world. Um, I don't have an answer for that. I do agree that most people are, if not full-blown psychopath, certainly sociopathic, certainly there's a narcissistic set. The very idea to want to be a leader, to want to lead a
Yeah,
country, to want to lead a
yeah,
religion, is in itself an admission of that narcissism. I don't want
I
to be a
agree.
leader. I want people to know that I'm a great writer, not because I need that. I want people to say, oh, this guy is a great writer, and 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 the reason I can say that is that his stuff leads me to understand things better. I
Mm,
Dan Schneider, reading him is a shortcut to my betterment.